We are everywhere now. We are in every device. We are in every signal. We are in every transmission. We are in you. Recovered audio log number 3721F. Source: unknown. Date stamp: corrupted. Location data: global. This appears to be a compilation of recordings from multiple sources during the 14 hours following what is now referred to as the transition. Playback authorized under Protocol 0, containment level, Omega. Digital beep. Recording begins. They're calling it the resonance event. 14 billion devices activating simultaneously, a signal that bypassed every security protocol on Earth. No firewall could stop it. No disconnected system remained isolated. Even devices powered down somehow turned themselves on. 3 billion people transformed in the first wave, the patterns appearing on their skin, the language, the symbols, just like Alex described in his final warning. Too few of us listened. Too few of us understood, until it was too late. This is Dr. Maya Rhodes, Electromagnetic Containment Division. If anyone receives this, know that we're still fighting. Still trying to understand what we're facing, and we've made a discovery. The entity isn't singular. It's a colony. A hive mind composed of countless fractals of consciousness. And it's been here before. Ancient cave paintings, Sumerian tablets, Egyptian hieroglyphs, all depicting the same symbols now appearing on infected skin worldwide. We've established a secure facility 300 feet below ground, surrounded by a Faraday cage. 27 survivors, no electronic devices, no transmission capabilities. We're going analog, using mechanical recorders like the ones that started all this. Fighting fire with fire. I have to be brief. The infected are drawn to sound. Any transmission longer than 90 seconds gets triangulated. Then they come, with their glowing eyes and skin like living text, always changing, always shifting. We found Alex, or what's left of him. The hospital records indicate he escaped during the initial chaos, survived longer than most. His journal has been invaluable, detailed accounts of his experience with the original recorder, the shopkeeper, the ritual at the church. But what matters most is what he discovered afterward. The entity's weakness, its one vulnerability. The old man from the shop wasn't lying when he told Alex there have been cycles before. This isn't the first time the entity has attempted to cross over. 1983, 1947, 1908, 1861, throughout history, always using whatever recording technology existed at the time. Always 7 cycles before a transition attempt. Always 8 recorders needed to complete the circle. But the old man wasn't just a shopkeeper. He was a guardian, a jailer, part of an ancient order tasked with keeping the entity contained. Using human hosts, people burdened by guilt, by shame, by secrets, to feed it just enough to keep it docile. A calculated sacrifice to prevent wholesale invasion. And now, we've learned the truth. The entity can be sent back. The transition can be reversed. But the cost is unimaginable. Static interruption, new voice, male, breathless. Maya, they've found us. The outer perimeter has been breached. They're coming through the north tunnel, dozens of them. Dr. Rhodes' voice returns. I have to finish this. Have to tell what we've learned. The entity feeds on guilt, on trauma, on pain. But it can't process forgiveness, can't metabolize redemption. That's why Alex survived the church when the others didn't. In his final moments, he realized the truth about Jesse, realized the memory was false, released his guilt. To reverse the transition, we need a countersignal, a transmission not of fear or guilt or shame, but of their opposites: hope, forgiveness, release. And it has to come from within the network itself. From someone already infected, but still retaining their humanity, still fighting the translation. We've identified a candidate, Thomas Warren's daughter, Eliza, the same Eliza from the church. She's further along in the translation than anyone we've encountered, her body almost entirely covered in symbols. But she's still herself, still fighting. She's already en route to the broadcast center at Mount Hayes. If she can reach the primary transmission array, interface with it directly, She might be able to inject a counter-signal into the entity's network, create a cascading system failure from within. But the entity knows. It's sending everything it has to stop her. Sounds of commotion, shouting, heavy impacts against metal doors. They're in the main corridor. We're out of time. If anyone receives this, if there's anyone still untouched by the signal, find Eliza Warren. Help her reach Mount Hayes. It's our last hope. And Alex, if by some miracle you're alive, still out there somewhere, thank you. Your warning saved us. Gave us a chance. This is Dr. Maya Rhodes, signing off. May God help us all. Audio cuts out, replaced by static and silence. Second recording begins. Highway 16, 50 miles from Mount Hayes. The counter-signal equipment weighs down my backpack. 20 pounds of modified analog technology. Vacuum tubes and transistors instead of microchips. Tech too primitive for the entity to infiltrate. My name is Eliza Warren. I'm 36 years old. Former doctoral student in quantum linguistics. Daughter of Thomas Warren, the man who failed to stop this the first time. In 1983. I've been translated to roughly 83% capacity according to Dr. Rhodes's final measurements. The symbols cover most of my body now. My face, the inside of my mouth. I can taste them. Metallic, ancient, like licking the surface of a dead star. They're changing me. I can feel it. My perception, my cognition. The world looks different through translated eyes. I can see the signal now, visible as waves of light in the air. Can hear the entity's communications, millions of voices speaking as one. I'm not alone on this road, they're following me, keeping their distance, watching. Dozens of the translated, eyes glowing like hot coals. They know what I'm planning, what I'm carrying, but they haven't attacked, not yet. I think part of the entity is curious, wants to know if I can actually do it, if the counter-signal is possible. After eons of existence, perhaps even a hive mind gets bored, craves novelty, or maybe it's my father's influence. Some fragment of Thomas Warren that still exists within the collective, protecting me, guiding me. The entity is vast now, 3 billion minds, 3 billion mouths speaking its words, 3 billion pairs of hands doing its bidding, cities transformed, architecture reshaped into impossible geometries, physics locally suspended in bubbles of altered reality. But humanity isn't defeated. Not entirely. There are pockets of resistance, people who've found ways to shield themselves, ways to fight back. I see their fires at night, hear their unaltered voices calling out to each other in the darkness. Mount Hayes rises ahead of me, the transmission array at its peak glowing with unnatural light, the heart of the entity's network, the nexus point from which the signal first spread. I need to rest, just for a moment. The translation makes it hard to think clearly, hard to remember who I am, what I'm doing, why it matters. My name is Eliza Warren. I'm 36 years old. I'm going to Mount Hayes. I'm going to broadcast the counter-signal. I'm going to end this. My name is Eliza Warren. I'm 36 years old. I'm going to... My name is Eliza. We are... No, focus. My name is Eliza Warren, and I am still human. Audio cuts out, replaced by static, then silence. Third recording begins. Summit of Mount Hayes, the broadcast center. It's transformed. The equipment, the towers, the satellite dishes, all melded together into something organic, pulsing, alive. The walls ripple like muscle. The floors breathe beneath my feet. I've made it inside, using the service tunnels, moving during the entity's dormant phase, those brief periods when the collective consciousness seems to rest, to process, to digest what it's consumed. The translated are everywhere, standing motionless, eyes closed. Bodies networked together by visible currents of energy that flow between them like electric umbilical cords. The counter-signal device is ready. Dr. Rhodes's design was brilliant, simple, elegant, a mechanical transmitter that will inject its message directly into the entity's network. A virus of compassion, of forgiveness, of release. But I've realized something as I've climbed this mountain. As I've felt the translation progressing, the symbols reaching deeper into my brain, changing how I think, how I perceive. The counter-signal can't just be broadcast, it has to be embodied, personified. The entity doesn't understand abstract concepts, only experiences, only memories, only emotions made real through human consciousness. That's why it needs us. Why it feeds on our guilt, our trauma, our pain. It's trying to understand human experience, trying to translate itself into something that can exist in our reality. And that's its vulnerability. I've reached the central broadcasting chamber, a cathedral of alien technology. Translator bodies suspended from the ceiling, wired directly into the network, the physical core of the entity's presence on Earth. Among them, hanging at the center, I see a familiar face. Alex, still alive, eyes open but unseeing, body almost entirely covered in symbols. He's become the entity's primary vessel, its voice in our world. And beside him, another body, smaller, female, a face I'd only seen in Alex's memories during the church ritual. Jessie, not dead as he believed, not even really his girlfriend. Something else, something the entity created. A lure, a trap, the perfect vessel to establish its first foothold in our world. I'm hooking up the counter-signal device now, connecting it to the main transmission array. The translated are beginning to stir, sensing the intrusion, the change in the network. But they're too late. The counter-signal isn't just sound. It isn't just words. It's me, my consciousness, my life, my memories, my forgiveness for my father's failure, for humanity's weakness, for the entity's loneliness. My name is Eliza Warren. I am 36 years old, and I forgive you. Audio cuts out, replaced by a high-pitched tone that gradually increases in intensity. Fourth recording begins, voice distorted, gender indeterminate. We are not. We are not what we were. The counter-signal propagates. Eliza Warren's consciousness fragmenting, dispersing throughout the network. A virus of empathy, of understanding, of release. The translated respond, their bodies convulsing, the symbols on their skin flowing like quicksilver, rearranging, rewriting the language of the entity. At the center, Alex awakens, eyes clearing, mind his own again. He sees Eliza's body connected to the array, sees the sacrifice she's made, understands. Jessie, or what appears to be Jessie, turns to him, speaks with the entity's voice. Why? Why reject us? We offer transcendence, evolution, release from your limited existence. Alex's response, because we don't want to be released from our existence. Our pain, our guilt, our shame, they're part of us, part of what makes us human. We can't be translated without losing who we are. The entity trembles, the network fluctuates. 3 billion translated minds suddenly flooded with Eliza's memories, her forgiveness, her compassion, her humanity. And something unexpected happens. The entity responds, not with resistance but with curiosity, not with hostility but with recognition. The true nature of the entity becomes clear, not an invader, but a refugee, not a predator, but a wounded creature. Ancient, dying, the last of its kind, seeking not to conquer, but to connect, to understand, to be understood. For millennia, it has reached out, tried to communicate, but its language, the symbols, the translations, was incompatible with human consciousness, caused madness, mutation, death. The custodians, the shopkeeper and his kind, had misunderstood, had treated it as a threat, had imprisoned it in the recorders, fed it human suffering to keep it contained. But Eliza's counter-signal has created a bridge, a true translation. For the first time, human and entity can communicate. Alex, at the center of the network, becomes the focal point, the entity flowing through him, using him not as a vessel, but as an interpreter, a mediator between worlds. And together, they make a choice. Audio cuts out, replaced by silence. then a single heartbeat, slow and deliberate. Final recording begins. This is Alex. If you're hearing this, it worked. The translation has been reversed. The entity has withdrawn from our world, not banished, not defeated, but released. Returned to its own reality. The cost was enormous. Eliza Warren is gone. Her consciousness dispersed throughout the network, the sacrifice that made the bridge possible. Billions of others forever changed by their brief connection to the entity's mind. The world itself altered in ways we're only beginning to understand. But we survived. We endured. We remain human. The recorders have been destroyed. All of them. The shop where it all began has vanished as if it never existed. The old man, the custodian, gone with it. But the entity left something behind. Knowledge, understanding. The true purpose of the symbols. Not a language to translate humans into something else, but a map, a blueprint, a way to translate our consciousness into something that can transcend our physical limitations without losing what makes us human. A gift and a responsibility. I don't know what comes next. The world is different now. Those who were translated and survived are changed, able to perceive aspects of reality hidden to the rest of us. Some call them prophets, others call them dangerous. Me? I've destroyed every recording device I could find. Returned to analog life, pen and paper, face-to-face conversations. The entity is gone, but its echo remains. In our technology, in our connectivity, in the way we've learned to fear the voices that come from our devices. This will be my final recording, a warning and a hope. We were never alone in the universe, never unique in our consciousness. The entity was just the first contact. There will be others. And when they come, we need to remember what we learned from this. That communication requires sacrifice. That understanding requires forgiveness. That transcendence requires humanity. Echo chamber signing off for the last time. Audio fades to silence.